There is a person you cannot stand. You know who it is. The name arrived before I finished the sentence. Maybe it is someone at work, the one who talks too long in meetings, who says the obvious thing in a voice that suggests nobody has thought of it before. Maybe it is a relative. Maybe it is someone you have not spoken to in 9 years and still argue with in the shower. And here's the part that will not sit still. Other people do not seem to mind them. They find them a little much, and then forget about them. You do not forget, you carry them. You have a private file on this person, and you have been adding to it for years. Carl Jung had an explanation for that file, and it is not a kind one. The intensity of your reaction is not information about them. It is information about you. Somewhere early on you were shown which parts of you were welcome and which were not, and you took the unwelcome ones and put them where you would never have to look at them again. They did not die, they went behind you. And now whenever you meet someone openly living the exact quality you buried, something in you goes tight and hot and certain, and you call that certainty judgment. Jung called it the shadow, and he said something about it that almost nobody quotes, because it is not comforting. He said the shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, and that no one becomes conscious of it without considerable moral effort. Not a weekend, not a journal prompt, moral effort. Tonight I want to show you where yours is kept, why you have never found it by looking for it, and the thing almost nobody tells you, that the largest part of what you buried was never your ugliness. Let me put a person in front of you. A woman, late 30s, competent, the one everybody calls when something goes wrong. A good person by any measure, and she has worked hard to be one. When she was small, she learned something the way children learn things, without words and all at once. She learned that when she was needy, the room got colder. She learned that when she was angry, something in her mother's face closed like a door. She learned that being easy to be around was the price of being kept. So she made a decision no child could describe as a decision. She took the anger, the neediness, the hunger to be first, the plain wish to be admired, and put them out of sight. Not gone, filed. And in their place she built something bright and useful and reliable, and she held it out in front of her like a lantern. That lantern is what Jung called the persona. The face turned toward the world. And it worked. It got her loved, or something adjacent to loved. But a lantern held out in front of you does one other thing, and nobody mentions it. It throws your shadow behind you, and the higher you hold it, the longer that shadow gets. Jung said it plainly. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Sit with that. The blackness is not a measure of how bad you are. It is a measure of how much of yourself you have refused to live. The nicest people you know are not carrying the smallest shadows. They are carrying the densest ones. Now the shadow has a problem of its own. It is made of you and it wants to be lived, but you will not look at it. So it does the only thing available, it finds a face. It waits for someone to walk into the room carrying your buried trait out in the open, and the moment they do, it lands on them. Jung's word for this is projection. The effect of projection, he wrote, is to isolate the subject from his environment, since instead of a real relation to it, there is now only an illusory one, and then the line that should be printed on the inside of every eyelid. Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face. Unknown face. Not your face, the one you have never seen. You are surrounded day after day by people who keep doing the specific thing you cannot bear, and you have concluded that the world is full of them. The world is not full of them. You are. And notice what the feeling actually is. It is not hatred, it is the sensation of being right. That is the tell. The shadow does not announce itself in your thinking, it announces itself in your body. Emotion, Jung wrote, is not an activity of the individual, but something that happens to him. Something that happens to you. You do not choose the heat, it arrives. So here is the instrument, and it is uncomfortably simple. Anywhere your reaction is bigger than the event, you are standing on top of something buried. Not annoyance. Annoyance is ordinary. I mean the disproportion. The colleague whose email ruins your afternoon. The relative whose one sentence at dinner you will still be carrying in March. And Jung was blunt about why you will not see it. The cause of the emotion, he wrote, appears to lie, beyond all possibility of doubt, in the other person. There is little hope, he said, that the subject will ever perceive this himself. Little hope from the man who spent his life on it. The stakes run higher than personal discomfort. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, writing from inside the machinery of the 20th century, said it best. If only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And then the question that closes the door on all of us. And who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? That is what a projection saves you from. It takes the line out of your chest and draws it between you and somebody else, which is so much easier to live with. So people go looking, and almost everyone looks in the wrong place, in one of 5 ways. The first, you went looking in the dark. You closed your eyes and waited for something monstrous to surface. Nothing did, because that is not where it lives. The shadow does not live in your meditation. It lives in your reactions. It was in the room at 9 in the evening when you told the story about your co-worker and enjoyed it, slightly more than the story deserved. You were not hunting it, you were feeding it. The second, you named it and thought that was the work. You can say, I know I can be judgmental with a small self-deprecating smile, and it costs you nothing and buys you the appearance of insight. Naming is not integrating. A confession delivered with charm is camouflage. The third, you made it a personality. Shadow work became a thing you do, a vocabulary you have, a way of being interesting at dinner. And the shadow, which is not stupid, simply moved. It put on the new language and went on running the same operation. Except now it is unassailable because you are the one who works on yourself. The fourth, you tried to kill it. You decided the envy was beneath you and set about eliminating it. But you cannot amputate a part of yourself. You can only push it further out of sight. And Jung already told you what that does. The less it is embodied, the blacker and denser it becomes. The war against your own darkness is the most reliable method ever devised for enlarging it. And the fifth, which is the one that keeps people exactly where they are for 30 years. The projection is load-bearing. The person you cannot stand is doing a job for you. They are holding your arrogance, or your appetite, or your rage, so that you do not have to hold it. As long as they are the arrogant one, you get to be the humble one. As long as they are the selfish one, you get to be the one who gives. Your entire sense of being a decent person rests on somebody else carrying the part of you that is not. Take the projection back and you do not simply gain self-knowledge. You lose your position. You lose the height. You have to walk around as a person who is also arrogant, also hungry, also capable of the thing you have spent your life condemning. That is the cost, and it is the real reason you will not do it. It has nothing to do with understanding the concept. Which brings us to the part almost nobody says out loud. You have been picturing the shadow as a bag of your worst things, your cruelty, your envy, your appetite, and it is partly. But that is not the largest thing in there, and it is not the thing you are most afraid of. The Jungian analyst Robert Johnson spent 50 years in the room with people and reported something that sounds like it must be a mistake. Some of the pure gold of our personality, he wrote, is relegated to the shadow because it can find no place in that great levelling process that is culture. Think about what got buried alongside the rage, the part of you that was too much. The voice, you were told, was showing off. The gift you stopped mentioning because of the face somebody made. Those did not go somewhere else. They went in the same place. The shadow is not a dungeon. It is everything you were not permitted to be, and cruelty was only one item on that list. And Johnson found something stranger still. People resist the noble parts of the shadow more strenuously than they hide the dark ones. To draw the skeletons out of the closet, he wrote, is relatively easy. To own the gold in the shadow is terrifying. Of course it is. A skeleton only asks you to feel bad. Gold asks you to do something. If what you buried was not your ugliness, but your capacity, then you are not carrying a secret shame. You are carrying an unlived life, and you have been calling it humility. Which is why Jung wrote the sentence people put on posters without ever hearing it. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Every bright thing you hold out in front of you, every affirmation, every improved version of yourself you are performing toward, is another lantern raised a little higher, throwing the shadow a little longer behind you. The work is not more light in front, it is turning the lantern around. And when you do, the first thing you find is not a monster. The shadow, Jung said, is a tight passage, a narrow door whose painful constriction no one is spared who goes down to the deep well. And this meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow. At first, which means it is not the destination, it is the doorway, and it is narrow and there is no way around it. So what does this look like on an ordinary Tuesday? Smaller and duller than you want it to be. It looks like the woman with the lantern in the same meeting, feeling the same heat rise when the same person starts to speak. The heat does not stop coming. She never arrives at a place where it stops. What changes is half a second, a small delay between the heat and the verdict. And into that half second, instead of the sentence already formed and waiting, a different question. What is he allowed to do that I am not? And the answer most of the time is embarrassing. He takes up space, he asks for things, he assumes he is worth listening to. Things she decided at 6 years old she would never be caught doing. She does not become him. That is not what any of this is for. She takes one small piece of it back. She says the thing she was going to swallow, it comes out clumsy. Nobody claps. And afterward, there is a strange flatness, because an enemy has quietly stopped being an enemy, and she had no idea how much of her own energy he had been holding for her. Jung compressed the whole thing into 2 sentences. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. He was not talking about being nice. He was saying the parts of you that you have condemned are not gone. They are underground, unsupervised, and running the country. So, the person you cannot stand. You are not being asked to like them. You are being asked to consider that you have never actually met them, that you have been looking at a face you drew yourself on a surface they happened to be standing in front of. Set the lantern down. Turn around. The thing standing behind you has been waiting a very long time. It is smaller than you feared, and its hands are full.